Chapter 47. Milam's gaze was fixed on me, and that was enough to make the tension spike again. This fight wasn't going to be easy. Milam's fist clenched. Her expression didn't change, no grin, no snarky comment, not even the glimmer of her usual fire. She took a step forward. Then another. Her magicule swirled around her like a storm, distorting the air and making my skin prickle. And yet, there it was. The faintest flicker just behind those blank, obedient eyes. Mischief. I narrowed my gaze. So, she's acting, but that doesn't mean she'll go easy on me. Ciel's voice chimed in smoothly. Master, despite her restraint, she intends to fight at full strength. Be prepared, she appears to be enjoying this. Of course she is. This was Milam, after all. I drew the blade Ciel had gifted me, the one I had yet to wield in a real battle until now. The moment I gripped its hilt, it felt like it had always belonged in my hand. Balanced. Alive. I could feel Ciel's warmth through it. Milam didn't waste time. She disappeared. Ciel didn't need to say anything. My instincts were already screaming as I spun to meet her, our weapons clashing in a resounding shockwave of force. Her fist met my blade, the force of impact sending cracks along the floor below us. I was thrown back, sliding to a stop, but I wasn't hurt. Just shaken. That was a real attack. And still she showed no emotion. Milam, I muttered, you're having fun, aren't you? Nothing. Just silence. She came at me again, faster now, her fists slamming like thunder, each strike calculated not to kill, but to force me on the defensive. I parried with Ciel's sword, letting it sing through the air with each counterstrike. Sparks flew. My blade met her punches, my body moving almost without conscious thought. Every exchange was an explosion of strength, skill, and unspoken understanding. But the truth was undeniable. She's toying with me. She's fighting seriously, but leaving gaps on purpose, I whispered under my breath. Indeed, Master, she wants to test you. Just great. Even as she wore the mask of a controlled puppet, Milam's wild instincts burned underneath. Her eyes didn't show it, but her fists did. I grit my teeth and dashed in, shifting my weight low and aiming a cut across her shoulder. She caught the blade with her forearm, the impact ringing out across the chamber, but I saw it again, a tiny twitch at the corner of her mouth. Enjoyment. Still pretending to be mind-controlled, huh? I muttered, barely blocking her spinning kick. She didn't answer. Of course she didn't, but that flicker of mischief. Yeah, she was definitely having fun. I adjusted my grip on the sword, letting my own smile tug at the corners of my lips. Fine, Milam, if this is how you want to play it. The floor shattered beneath us as we lunged at each other again. Then let's play. The air around us cracked as another blow landed against my sword, the force of it sending tremors up my arms. I skidded back, my boots grinding against floor. Before I could recover, Milam was already in front of me again, her fist a blur. Too fast. I ducked barely. The punch whistled past my cheek, tearing through the air like a cannon shot. Before I even regained balance, the next one was already coming. I raised my sword and blocked it, but the impact rattled my non-existent bones. Another punch. I parried. A kick followed, lower this time, sweeping for my legs. I jumped back, twisting midair, only to find her above me already, crashing down like a meteor. I landed on my feet with a roll, breathing harder now, sweat beginning to form on my brow despite not needing to breathe or tire in the normal sense. She was faster. Every time I dodged, she upped the speed. Every time I blocked, her next strike came heavier. I thought I'd caught up, I muttered under my breath, sword trembling slightly in my grip. We're both demon lords now. But even so, I'm being completely overwhelmed. Every practice match I'd had with Milam before, every spar, every clash of fists and auras, she was always smiling, always pulling her punches, playing around. I thought I had gotten stronger since then. I had. But now, I realized, she had never gone all out. Not even now. Her expression was still emotionless, the act of a puppet under control. But her movements sharp, calculated, crushing those belonged to Milam the Destroyer. Every blow forced me to fight harder, to push further, to cling to every bit of technique and instinct I had. But the gap between us felt infinite. Another punch. My sword barely intercepted it, but the sheer force made me stumble back. Then another. And another. She's pushing harder every second. I gritted my teeth and took a step forward, meeting her next blow head-on with my blade. Sparks erupted as metal clashed with force. My arms shook from the impact, but I didn't fall. I can't afford to. I wasn't going to back down. Not here, not now. No matter how wide the gap was, no matter how strong she truly was, I would stand tall. For Tempest. For my people. For myself. We exchanged a flurry of blows, steel ringing, fists slamming, wind pressure exploding around us with every clash. My arms were aching now, even with my enhanced body. I ducked under another wild haymaker from Milam, only to be met by a spinning kick that I blocked just in time. The sheer force sent me sliding across the floor. Damn it, this isn't enough. I clenched my teeth, gripping the hilt of my sword tighter. Just the blade won't cut it. Not against her. My mind turned to the one trump card I'd been holding back. Sophia, Lord of Insight. If I activated it, I could analyze Milam's movements to the finest detail, match her rhythm, maybe even exploit one of the microscopic openings she barely left. That was the advantage Sophia offered. But just as I started to invoke the power, Master, stop, Ciel's voice, cool and immediate, halted me before I could activate. You must not use any skill here. Guy is observing very closely. If you activate Sophia, he will detect it immediately. Not only will it expose one of your trump cards. She paused, but there is an exceedingly high probability that he possesses a skill capable of replicating or mimicking others. If so, using Sophia here will be equivalent to handing it to him. What, you mean he's copying skills? It would explain his behavior. He is provoking battles, encouraging demonstrations of power not merely for entertainment but for analysis. Every technique shown here may be absorbed. My grip tightened. He's already strong enough as it is, and now he's stealing from others. Just how overpowered is this guy? Milam's next punch was already coming. I twisted away, barely escaping a direct hit to the ribs, then rolled to the side to avoid the follow-up. No magic, no skills, only technique, just me and the sword. Another exchange, another barrage of fists from Milam. I could feel my stance breaking down under the sheer pressure of her strength. Her movements were precise, unrelenting, and despite her expressionless face, I could see the gleam in her eyes. I readjusted my grip, took a breath, and steadied myself. Milam wasn't slowing down. Her next blow came with even more force. I blocked it. I'm not giving up. Milam's movements accelerated again, this time to a level that felt outright unfair. I could no longer see her attacks. Not with my eyes. She vanished mid-step and reappeared behind me, fist already descending. I barely twisted out of the way, her knuckles grazing my shoulder as a shockwave erupted. Behind me, I didn't even sense that one. Incoming left hook. Duck now, master. I dropped low just in time for her punch to sail over my head, slicing the air like a blade. Without Ciel's guidance, I'd already be down. I can't see her. I can't follow her. This is beyond what I've trained for. Her speed is increasing incrementally each exchange. I leapt backward, trying to buy a second of breathing room, but Milam didn't let up. She was already on me again. My sword met her fist with a clang that sent pain lancing up my arm. Right knee strike, parry upward now. I raised my blade, deflecting her leg just in time. But barely. Each move was faster, sharper, more punishing than the last. Milam wasn't even breaking a sweat and her face remained cold, unreadable, still under Clayman's supposed control. Master, I am doing everything I can to assist in real time. But my predictions are approaching their limit. She is accelerating unpredictably. I can't keep up. Not like this. I gritted my teeth, muscles straining as I blocked yet another punch I hadn't seen. My feet were digging into the floor, sliding back with every impact. Ciel, if she's going to keep pushing me this hard, then we must find a way to survive without revealing anything more. Hold out a little longer, master. I will adjust my calculations to compensate. But if she increases her speed again, then we're in real trouble. Milam pulled back, readying her next strike. The pressure hit like a wave. She's still holding back, and even now, she's overwhelming me. This wasn't a match. This was a storm and I was right in the center of it. Milam's punch came down like thunder. I brought my sword up, bracing with all my strength, letting Ciel guide the angle, but the impact was too much. A terrible crack rang out. My sword, Ciel's gift, shattered. Quote. Time seemed to stop. I leapt backward, shards of the broken blade falling like glass rain around me. My boots slid across the floor, and I landed in a crouch, breathing hard, eyes fixed on Milam. All that remained in my hand was the hilt. The beautiful blade, crafted with care, with love gone. Pieces of it sparkled at my feet. My heart twisted. That sword was Ciel's first gift to me. TCH. I clenched my jaw. My hand trembled, not from pain but from rising fury. That wasn't just a weapon. That was precious. Milam paused, her fist still half raised. Her eyes flicked to the scattered fragments, then to the hilt in my grip, then up to my face. I was glaring at her. Fury radiated from me like heat. I didn't care who was watching. Didn't care if Guy was analyzing me. That sword wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol. Of us. You broke it. Milam's gaze darted aside for the briefest moment, then she stiffened, almost comically. Like she'd just remembered she was supposed to be controlled. Her face became blank again, her body stiffening in unnatural jerks. A twitch in the corner of her eye betrayed her, though. She was very aware of what she had just done. Ciel's voice whispered in my mind, quiet, almost sorrowful. I'm sorry, Master. I should have foreseen that. No, you did everything right, Ciel. This isn't your fault. Milam might be acting, but that didn't change what she'd done. My hand trembled as I stared at the hilt, the only thing left of Ciel's gift. The blade I swore to protect like it was part of my own body, gone. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe. My surroundings faded, the battlefield, the demon lords, even Milam. All I could see were the broken fragments glinting across the floor, scattered like shards of a promise I couldn't keep. This wasn't just a sword. It was our sword, mine and Ciel's. I swore I'd never let it break. Ciel, I whispered, not even realizing I'd spoken. Aloud in my mind. Master. Her voice came gently, cautiously. There might still be a way to repair it. My heart skipped. Really? Yes. Under certain conditions, full potions can restore weapons too. A flicker of hope. What condition? A weapon must possess a consciousness of its own. A will to exist. If it does, and if the bond with its wielder is strong enough, the full potion can heal it. But, but this sword was only just created, I murmured. Yes, its awareness hasn't matured yet. The link between it and the world is still faint. I looked down at the hilt again. Even now, I could still feel traces of it. Faint warmth, like a hand that hadn't fully let go. It was alive. It wanted to fight. It wanted to protect me. But not enough. And that broke something inside me all over again. I see. My voice cracked. So that's it. No. Ciel cut in, urgent, panicked. There's still a way. If we forcefully stabilize its consciousness right here, right now, it might be enough. I can do it, Master. I can try. I blinked. My vision blurred, though I had no tears. You really think you can bring it back? Only if you believe in it. Only if we do. Please, don't give up on it yet. Let's bring it back together. Ciel, what do we need to do? I asked, my grip tightening around the sword's hilt. My eyes stayed on the shattered fragments scattered across the stone floor, each one a reminder of the gift I failed to protect. If we imbue the sword with a piece of your soul, Master, it may be possible to repair it, Ciel said gently, her voice low in my mind. A piece of my soul. Yes, you still have a fragment left, the one that broke off during your evolution. If we use half of that, we may be able to awaken the sword's consciousness, give it a will of its own. I didn't respond right away. The broken blade had been her first gift to me, something forged not just with skill, but with feeling. Losing it stung more than I expected, but maybe, just maybe, I could bring it back. All right, I whispered. Let's do it. I reached inward. From deep within me, I pulled out a fragment of my own soul, one broken off during my evolution. It shone brilliantly, radiating a rainbow-colored light, the same as my aura. The shifting hues lit the entire chamber in iridescent brilliance, casting spectral glows across the floor in the faces of the demon lords. Across the room, Guy Crimson watched intently. His lips curled into a wide smile, excited, curious. His crimson eyes gleamed, locked onto the radiant soul in my hands, as if savoring a moment he found genuinely thrilling. But I didn't look away. You're important to me, but just calling you sword isn't enough. My voice was soft, but steady. How about Rukin the Dragon Sword? As the name left my lips, I pressed the fragment of my soul into the hilt. No sound echoed, only light. The rainbow aura pulsed outward, and in that instant, the broken shards shimmered and rose from the ground. They spun together in a spiral of chromatic flame, drawn to the soul as if called home. Piece by piece, the blade was reborn, mended not with magic, but with intent, will, and soul. Its edge gleamed, catching the light like a dragon's scale, and from deep within, it breathed. It was no longer just a weapon. It was alive, a part of me. Ciel's voice rang clearly in my mind, composed yet filled with awe. Master, Rukin has evolved, from legend grade to god grade. Milam stared at Rukin with wide, sparkling eyes, completely ignoring her act for a moment. Her lips curled into a grin and excited, barely contained smile, like a child who had just been handed the strongest toy in the world. Her voice trembled with anticipation. Ooh, that's so cool. I narrowed my eyes. My sword is back, I muttered coldly. But I haven't forgiven you yet. Milam froze mid-smile. Then like a switch flipping, her expression went flat again. She went back to her blank-faced, puppet-like self, even throwing in an exaggerated slow blink for effect. Yeah, nice try. I wasn't buying that act anymore. Seal. Yes, master. Let's go all out. Understood. Initiating full synchronization. A ripple of power surged through me. The atmosphere changed. My aura refined, focused, no longer wild or reactive, but like a blade honed for a single purpose. It wasn't just raw strength, it was control, precision, and resolve. Even the air around me seemed to tighten. This time, I made the first move. With Rukin in hand, I surged forward faster, sharper, deadlier than before. I struck. Milam moved just in time, bringing her forearm up to block it. Clang! The shockwave cracked the floor beneath us. But Milam didn't smile this time. She knew this Rimuru was different. And the real fight had only just begun. A moment later, a calm yet powerful voice rang out through the air. I apologize for making you wait. Lady Rimuru, please utilize my power. Beretta. I blinked. How did you get in here? He bowed elegantly, stepping into the battle zone as if the barrier had never been there in the first place, his presence calm, yet imposing. I shall explain later. For now, he looked ahead with serene precision, please allow me to assist. A surge of relief rushed through me. I've been waiting for you, Beretta. Yes, sir. I wasted no time. Then go. Help Xian destroy that golem. Beretta's gaze flicked toward the hulking form fighting Xian, and without another word, he vanished in a blur of movement, his jet black robes trailing behind him like smoke. The battlefield balance had just shifted. And now, I turned back to Milam. She came at me again. A straight punch. I blocked with the flat of my blade. The shock ran up my arms, heels dragging across the floor. Another blow, low this time. I twisted my hips, parried with the edge, pivoted to the side. No room to breathe. She was already mid-spin, launching a kick that tore through the air like a blade. I ducked under it, stepped in, and slashed. Missed. She was already gone, reappearing behind me with a crushing elbow. I shifted my stance and raised the sword to absorb it, the impact blasting a crater beneath our feet. She didn't let up. Every strike came faster, every movement tighter. The rhythm was breaking apart, no patterns, no setup. Just raw speed and precision. I swung upward to deflect a punch, only for her knee to crash into my ribs from the opposite side. I slid back, feet grinding across the floor. She didn't wait. She closed the gap instantly, fist, kick, another fist, overhead smash. Each time I blocked, I lost a bit of ground. She was accelerating. I threw a wide arc slash to force distance. She ducked under it and nearly caught my side. I turned with the momentum, slammed my blade down. She jumped back a step, then surged forward again like nothing had changed. TCH. Enough. Beelzebub. The air collapsed inward, swallowing the surrounding magicules in an instant. Hers were no exception, torn away mid-motion. That oppressive weight hanging around her vanished in a blink. This turned out to be pretty effective. Milam reared away from me, a scowl on her face. It was a teeny-tiny amount of damage, but it worked. All of Milam's body was protected by her own draconic aura. If I could take that out of the picture just by touching it, I'd gradually be able to sap her stamina. She lunged again. I sidestepped and brought my sword around, grazing the edge of her aura just as Beelzebub flared again, shaving off another layer. She didn't stop, but I could feel the faint shift, the ripple in the flow of her energy. Not enough to slow her, but enough to count. She spun and kicked. I blocked, slashed. She ducked and retaliated, fists pounding like warhammers. I kept moving, keeping close, forcing contact. Touch and devour. Even if each bite was small, they'd stack. And sooner or later, she'd feel it. The trick was staying in one piece until then. She blitzed me again, faster than before. I raised my blade. Let's see how long you can keep this up. I couldn't say how many back and forth exchanges we went through. But just then I had an unexpected chance. Right there, as Milam lost her balance, I grabbed her left hand and tried to throw her. If she was off balance, I figured I could pick her up on my back and slam her down. But that was Milam's trap. Her hand stopped dead in the air. A carefree grin spread across her face, a total, gotcha now. Smile. Oh, CRAAAAAAAAP. I twisted my body in front of her, both hands reaching out for her left arm, trying to salvage at anything to shift her balance again. But I could already see it. Through detect magic, it was like watching it unfold on a screen. My body was wide open. Cornered. Game over. Her fist moved fast, straight for my head. And just before it landed, thud, something cut between us. A dull, heavy sound. Milam's arm was deflected cleanly, the force redirected away. She stumbled back, blinking in confusion. GNHH, where did that come from? That was just mean. I stared. A tall, dark-skinned man with spiky blonde hair stood between us. Arms crossed. Smirking. Veldora, I blurted. He was curled up on the floor, grabbing at his head like he was in at least some pain. But, if taking a punch from Milam only left him like that, I wasn't exactly worried. I took the brief pause to get my stance back under control and reset my grip on the sword. Hey, Veldora, why are you even in here? Grrn, what a cruel blow. You'll be fine, all right. What's happening in town? Nothing. That man Diablo, or whatever it was, came back, so our defense is as strong as ever. Huh, Diablo's back. There's no way they captured Farmus that quickly. But whatever. Focus. More pressing issue. Veldora flailing around in the middle of Walpurgis. So what are you here for? If it's just to whine at me, then go away. Why are you being cruel, too, Rimuru? Look, it's about this. He jumped to his feet and thrust both hands out toward me like he expected a ta-da sound effect to play. In his hands, he was holding one of the manga volumes I gave him. Not just any volume, the final one of that long-running series he'd been obsessed with. The story in here's completely different from the rest of the series. Were you playing some kind of trick, taking the ending away from me? Ah, right, yes, now I remember. That was a trick. Seal came up with the idea, left him the final volume of a completely different manga as a prank. Said she'd give him the real ending, if he listened to my orders from now on. Basically training a pet. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. And I definitely had no idea that was the series she messed with. So he traveled all the way here, just because he wanted to read the ending. All right, I said, brushing the dust off my shoulder. Before I give you the real ending, I need you to do me a favor. What? Play with Milam over there for a while. Milam, yes, my brother's only daughter. I haven't met her before, but she's still just a child, isn't she? Very well, I am on my way. He spun dramatically and started walking toward her like he was heading to a tea party. I didn't know whether it was the manga or Milam that had captured his interest more, but either way he agreed. Still, my brother's only daughter, that line stuck in my head. I was definitely going to ask him about that later. Milam herself was already watching us, tense, alert, locked in on Veldora. But not charging. The twinkle in her eyes said enough. She was curious. Hopefully that meant I was safe for now. Which one of them was stronger anyway? I was very tempted to stay and find out, but no. There's just no way I wasn't going to take advantage of this situation. I turned on my heel and moved toward Clayman. Time to settle this for good. I released full synchronize. The sharp focus dulled, and mine and CL's conciseness separated. Leaving Milam and Veldora behind, I turned toward Ranga first. His side of the battlefield looked the most intense, lightning and wind clashing in spirals, rubble scattering, claws scraping through stone. But something felt off. Ranga's movements lacked his usual ferocity. There wasn't much life in his attacks, not hesitation, but something else. Just as I was about to ask what was going on. "LP me, help me, help me." The childlike voice cut through the noise, threading directly into my thoughts. Thought communication. It wasn't directed at me, but it leaked through. The source was clear. Ninehead. That was it. The White Monkey and Moon Rabbit weren't dragging this out because they thought they could win. They were defending someone, protecting their trembling master who was barely holding herself together. That voice, those cries, they were filled with fear. ... Now I see. I narrowed my eyes, stepping forward as lightning danced across the ground near my feet. Let's help her out. Seal immediately picked up on it. She's under a demon dominate curse, she reported. And began dismantling it. A simple curse, but cruel in design, meant to override will and flood the victim with fear. The moment I undid the magic, Ninehead let out a small, joyous yelp, then curled up and dropped right to sleep, completely drained. Honestly, it was adorable. Apart from the three tails and the golden fur, it looked exactly like a tiny fox cub. The kind of thing you'd see in one of those cute animal videos online back when I still had the internet. Ranga appeared beside me, growling low and deep, trying to look as threatening as possible. And, yeah, that was pretty cute, too. In a cool way, I gave him a quick pat. Keep this cub safe. Yes, my master, he said, bowing his head respectfully as I handed the sleeping nine head to him. That settled it. His battle was done. One more off the board. Next, I turned to Beretta and that confrontation was already over. Neatly arranged on the floor in front of it was a collection of unique class weapons and armor, lined up like treasures on display. Beretta hovered nearby, practically vibrating with excitement. Hey, what are you doing? Oh yes, hello, Lady Rimuru, she replied, giving me a chipper, over-exaggerated salute. It is a pity I could not show myself in action to you, but I have prepared some spoils of war for you. Spoils. My eyes wandered back to the mess behind it. Ah, Viola supposedly Clayman's greatest masterpiece was now, parts. Armor, limbs, weapons, shattered core pieces, everything dismantled and scattered like a broken toy. That had been Beretta's gift to me. I already knew Beretta was strong, but it took down that arsenal on legs magic born without even a scratch. Yeah, no doubt about it. This thing was scary when it wanted to be. What are you going to do with all that booty? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Beretta straightened up like it had been waiting for that question. Well, I thought I would present it to you, Lady Rimuru, and I thought you would accept it and, in exchange, provide a place for Lady Ramirez. Me to live, a place to live. I knew Ramirez wanted to settle in Tempest, but Beretta, too. What made you worry about that? I asked, slowly. Actually, Beretta began explaining, and the more I heard, the deeper my frown became. Apparently Guy had forced Beretta into a decision. Cornered it into choosing a master before he'd let Beretta onto the battlefield. Beretta calmly responded that it would serve Ramirez after helping me out in here, but, being the clever demon that it is, it had already figured out a way to wiggle around that condition. If Ramirez were to move to our town, which she clearly wanted, Beretta would, naturally, have to follow her as her guardian. And then, by being in Tempest, she could go through Ramirez to serve me as well. That was her plan, one of the flimsiest excuses I'd ever heard, and she was laying it all out like it was the divine word of law. The word, demon, really couldn't have fit her more. I sighed. Well, we can save that for later. I'll have to think about it. I can't set up something for you guys that easily. Understood, Lady Rimuru, it said cheerfully. Beretta looked completely satisfied with that non-answer. Well, whatever, we were good for now. That left only Xian to check on, and from the sound of things, that confrontation was about to end. As I walked toward Xian, I realized the battle was already over. Clayman was on the ground, half broken, trembling, his voice cracking under the weight of everything crashing down around him. No, this can't be. How could I, a demon lord, Clayman? Now he understood. He finally understood the difference in power. But even now, he refused to accept it. The look in his eyes was sheer devastation, his pride, his delusion, all crumbling in real time. May I put him out of his misery, Lady Rimuru? Xian asked calmly, standing above him, blade drawn but not yet lowered. I hesitated. There were a few questions I could ask him. A few final threads to tug. But most of the answers, I could already predict. He was too weak-willed to be the mastermind. Just a pawn, dressed up in borrowed pride. What I really wanted was to know whose bidding he was doing. But would he even tell me the truth at this point? Damn it all. Milam, what is Milam doing? Destroy that magic born at once. He was screaming now, flailing his arms, panic setting in. Desperate, cornered, his death was near, and he could feel it. But his eyes widened in disbelief as he turned and saw the impossible. Veldora, casually fighting with Milam. Clayman froze. The last thread of hope snapped. Who? What is this? His power is off the charts. He finally noticed. He must have just realized that Veldora wasn't some random magic born I brought along. Well, he's in human form right now, but that's Veldora, I said, smiling proudly. I told you, remember? He's my big brother. That shut him up. Clayman fell silent, mouth still open like he wanted to argue but he couldn't. Not after seeing it with his own eyes. Veldora and Milam were still going at it in the background, a relentless storm of force slamming across the battlefield. Every few seconds, another shockwave rocked the floor. Explosions of light, bursts of magic, skill names echoing in the air, one after another. Some of them I recognized from the manga he read. Others. I had no clue if they were real or if he made them up on the spot. Either way he was keeping up. Milam, for once, looked surprised. Really surprised. Guess despite how he acts, Veldora really is strong. Thus, Clayman finally gave up on relying on Milam. Even in the middle of his panicked confusion, he managed to stumble toward the edge of our isolated battle zone, screaming out toward the audience beyond the barrier. Frey. Frey, what are you doing? You and I share a common fate. Get in here and lend a hand. His voice cracked with desperation, clinging to whatever scraps of control he thought he still had. But the reply was ice cold. Oh, I'm sorry, Clayman, Frey said, her voice calm, almost amused. Nobody can go through this barrier unless Guy lets them. Such a pity. Clayman groaned an ugly, resentful sound as if the world itself had betrayed him. He turned back toward Milam, his shoulders shaking. His eyes were twitching now. There was nothing left of the refined, scheming demon lord. Just madness, wide-eyed, unstable madness. Something unhinged clicked into place behind that stare. A crazed laugh burst out of him. Ha 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 ha. Milam, follow my orders and execute a stampede. Kill everybody you see and hear. Well, that sounds awful. He didn't care about dignity anymore. This wasn't strategy. It wasn't vengeance. Clayman just wanted to survive, even if it meant hiding behind someone else's chaos. Why do I need to do that? Milam chirped, spinning lightly on one heel, back to her usual bright, carefree tone. Rimuru and her people are my friends. Just like that snap cheerful, high-energy Milam was back in full force. Like nothing had ever happened. I stared at her for a moment. Seriously, Milam, your acting was so bad I'm actually surprised Clayman bought it. I crossed my arms. You weren't under control at all, were you? He. Nope, she giggled, puffing her chest out proudly. Fooled him good, right? Unbelievable. She looked way too pleased with herself. I took a slow breath, then smiled. Not the nice kind. So, I said, voice dropping just slightly, that also means, you weren't being controlled when you broke my dear Rukin, right? Her smile froze. She scratched her cheek, eyes darting to the side. I mean, why you already fixed it, right? Your sword, so it's technically fine now. No harm done. I kept smiling at her. The temperature didn't change, but Milam was suddenly fidgeting like she was standing on a volcano. Hey, come on, Rimuru. I was acting. Real method stuff. I had to sell it, you know. Had to go full force. I tilted my head slightly, still silent. It's not like I wanted to break your sword, she added quickly. I even felt bad after, honest. I was like, uh-oh. Rimuru's gonna be so mad. But then you fixed it and I was like, phew, dodged a bolt there. Hee. She gave a tiny, guilty laugh, taking a half step back. You're not mad, right? Right. I mean, you're smiling, so that means you're not mad, right? I didn't say anything, just kept smiling. Milam flailed slightly, hands up again. Wait, Rimuru, it wasn't my fault, it was Clayman's fault. I raised an eyebrow, taking a step closer. You're the one who punched and broke Rukin. But he made me act mean. I had to commit to the role. It was part of the trap. I didn't answer. Instead, I closed the gap between us and pulled her into a tight hug. Milam blinked, stiffening for a second then slowly relaxed. You know, I murmured, until I was absolutely certain you weren't being controlled. I was really worried. I pulled back just slightly, just enough to look her in the eye, then flicked her hard on the forehead. Ow, I'm still angry at you, I said, letting out a slow sigh. Milam, you really make me worry sometimes. Then I gave her a small smile. Don't you worry me again, okay, BFF. Milam beamed, her eyes shining. Yeah, I promise, BFF. She hugged me even tighter, laughing with that usual spark in her voice. I reached up and gently patted her head. Yeah, this reckless, overpowered troublemaker was back to normal. And honestly, I was glad. Clayman suddenly interjected, voice shaking but rising. With manic confidence. Why yes. I used the orb of domination he gave me to put you completely at my beck and call. You killed Caroline under my orders, did you not? The moment those words hit the air, Milam and I both froze. Then we stepped apart, our hug awkwardly breaking mid-motion. I stared at him, deadpan. Really, Clayman, you had to ruin that sweet moment. Milam tilted her head. Right, that was, like, peak friendship stuff. But inside, I was already analyzing it. Oh, Clayman, He was so shocked by everything falling apart around him, he didn't even realize what he just said. And that ought to make my video evidence even more bulletproof. Because not only had he just confessed to being the culprit, he also let slip that someone else, someone higher, was pulling his strings. Milam lit up beside me. Yes, that's what I wanted to hear, she said, grinning. Then she turned back to Clayman, eyes sharp and cutting. Answer me, Clayman, who's this he you're talking about? Her voice was casual enough, but there was nothing light about the aura behind it. She didn't even acknowledge his desperate accusation about Caroline, which was so like her. She'd suspected Clayman the entire time. Another voice cut in from the far side of the battle zone. Whoa, who's been killed here? The low, heavy voice belonged to the man with eagle wings, the one Frey had brought along. He walked in with slow, even steps, and looked very much alive. The man stepped forward, talons tapping against the stone. Then, without a word, he ripped the mask off his face, and in that instant, his overwhelming aura burst forth like a storm. With a flicker of concentration, his form shimmered, returning to his true self in the blink of an eye. Yep, no mistaking it now, that's the Beast Master, all right. Next time, I said dryly, try putting on a proper disguise. Caroline chuckled, then gave me a nod. Thank you for taking care of my forces. Oh, not a problem. We exchanged a short glance. No need for more. Caroline turned toward Clayman and gave him a cold, knowing grin. The moment Clayman saw the undeniable truth standing in front of him, his mouth fell open. Wah, how? So it's true. But Frey told me. No, Frey, too. You betrayed me as well, didn't you? Clayman turned toward her in disbelief, voice cracking with desperation. Frey slowly turned to face him, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. She replied, cool as ever. Since when were you laboring under the assumption that I was your ally? Yikes, I knew it. Women can be so scary sometimes. Frey had been tricking him from the very beginning, and judging by her tone, she didn't even feel the need to apologize for it. Clayman's mouth moved, but no words came out. The weight of realization was finally starting to sink in. He'd been used, abandoned, and outmaneuvered. By everyone. And honestly, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. You have to be kidding me. All of you, you'll pay. I'll make you all pay for this. The scream of a pitiful clown echoed across the field, his voice cracking, breaking, the last sound of someone who had lost everything but his bitterness. I'd heard enough. Xian, do it. Her eyes gleamed. You got it. Like a hungry dog finally released from the command to stay, Xian surged forward fast, precise, unstoppable. Both hands gripped her massive sword as she brought it down in one decisive arc. A single strike. A judgment rendered without hesitation. Clayman tried to defend himself, flailing his arms in desperation, but it was pointless. His 3 pairs of arms were severed instantly, and in the same motion, Xian's blade cleaved through his body, diagonally, from head to toe. There was no surviving that. No last words. No redemption. Just silence. Clayman collapsed, wordless, to the ground, defeated not just in body, but in soul. The curtain finally closed on the Puppet King's pathetic play. To be continued.